Good afternoon, my fellow pirates and privateers. I had shot a video a while back of OpenCPN and with some basic reasons as to why I like it. And in all honesty, that video was pretty terrible. So now that I've gotten a little more accustomed to using OpenCPN, I thought I'd shoot another and actually try to do a screen capture this time so you guys can really get a good idea of what it's like now that I've gotten used to it as well. Now, I don't use all of its functionalities because I honestly don't need them. I mean, I'm in a 25-foot sailboat and I usually operate in this region right here. So, and I can see what's going on. I don't go out at night. But anyway, okay, here we go. Navigation menus are pretty simple. We'll try to go through them one by one. I won't go into super detail, but I'll go enough where I feel like you at least get a good idea of what OpenCPN is like. Now, I run this on a Samsung Note 10 mounted to a mount inside my companionway. Swing it out, swing it back in as needed. It has built-in GPS, it does Wi-Fi, but no actual SIM card for 4G or 3G or 5G. Right, I'm just running this on my desktop computer. When it does have the GPS enabled, and you can see it, and when I have the puck hooked up to my laptop, up in the upper right corner up here shows your GPS signal. Right now it's red, obviously, because, well, I don't have GPS hooked up. This lovely little navigation bar does a lot of the same things that this upper bar does. It's just kind of a quick way to get to stuff, and you can also right click and it gives you a lot of the navigation tools for route planning and stuff like that. Okay, I have most of the information from the ENC charts turned off right now, just so we can go by click and get a better idea of how cluttered this can get if you turn everything on. Navigate, auto follow, and enable tracking. I usually turn those on when I'm out, just so that I can see where I'm going and where I've been. It also helps at the end of the day. There's a daily log that's put together for you to review. You can review it. It helps at the end of the day. It shows your speed and courses and all that fun stuff. Good stuff. I usually use north up when I'm doing planning, and sometimes I'll switch back and forth between north up and course up when I'm sailing. I don't use these very often, but they're there. Okay. So, first one we'll turn on is Show ENC Text. It gives you basics of what's around you, both on land and in the water. It gives you the more common names of the buoys, as you can see, and some landmarks on land. These will be helpful if you're shooting dead reckoning. It gives you some ideas of where stuff is at. I always leave this one on. Next is ENC lights. Obviously that's going to give you the information based on each light, what it's doing, the flashing interval, it's red, its time, how high above the water, how far it can be seen, all the stuff that a paper chart would give you. Except this one you could update without a pen and pencil. ENC soundings. This is when you add this in is where it can get very cluttered. I mean, you can see it's at 63,200. I will usually zoom in to about here for when I'm out and about. If I'm planning, I'll stick a little higher, and I usually won't turn the soundings on until I'm ready to do each leg of the trip. These are accurate. They're pretty good. I have no complaints so far. Right, the next is the anchoring information. This one proves to be quite nice to have. Shows you what they believe that the bottom is. Whether or not, of course, it's going to change as time goes on, but that's the nature of the beast. Very helpful for anchoring. I never use ENC data quality. Never. I honestly don't even know what it shows. But anyway, so we're just going to turn this one back off to declutter it a bit. The nav objects doesn't show much till you start to zoom back out. You can do show tides and show currents. Where this comes into play is if you pull down to a major river, it'll show you the tidal flow based on system clock, based on what time it is. And of course, tide, if you have the tide charts in there, it'll pull them up as well, based on system time, the time of the system that you're using, the computer or tablet. Also very helpful for planning. Now, I don't use any of the AIS stuff, so I honestly don't know anything about it. If anybody has some better information on how AIS integrates with OpenCPN, please, by all means, leave it down in the comments. Now, these tools markers here are basically the same ones that you can find in here, with the exception of the drop the man overboard marker. Now, like I said, I don't have GPS hooked up, so that's not going to work. Or the drop these two as well. Same basic idea. It'll drop a mark at the cursor because that's the thing. Alright, we can create a route, and we'll just drop our first marker at Mosquito Point. And you drag it and left click again, and you can change directions all the way till you get to wherever you want to go, and then you right click and hit end route. That seems to be the easiest way to do it, other than dragging your cursor back all the way across, as it tends to drag it wants to go to another waypoint. This is one of the things I like most about this, and I'm assuming that most GPS softwares do this as well. You can grab a waypoint and move it. So what I tend to do is to build the basics of my route first. You know, like say we're going from Kilmarnock to Annapolis. Well, I'll run it all the way out, and then I'll go back through and modify each waypoint to give me what I want. You know, if I happen to cut across a shallow, or cut too close to a buoy or something that I don't want to be near, I just grab that waypoint and move it. Simple. Great tool. The route and mark manager gives you whatever you need. Of course, you can name the route. You hit the properties, and you can name it whatever you want. Gives you the total distance. You can set your speed to whatever you believe your average speed may be. I usually set it at 5 knots. That way it gives me a larger window. I can average 4.5 to 5.5. It just depends on the wind and tide. You can also set departure times and dates. And in theory, it kind of sets everything up. You can change color, style, and the width of the track line. Very fun tool. It's just extra stuff to put in the description. This tracks tab is where it shows the daily tracks. If you have that set up, when you go out for a day, you come back in, it'll show up in this screen. And you can look at each track as you go through it, and it'll give you a better estimate of how many miles you actually travel, how many nautical miles you traveled that day. Waypoints, as I clicked man overboard earlier, so it did drop it, but it didn't show it on here, but it gives you some basic information. See, gives you lat and long. Always helpful if, God forbid, somebody should go overboard. The layers one I don't use, so that's that. Alright, back to tools. Options tab. This is one you're going to get into quite a bit when you're first setting it up. And actually you'll go back from time to time and make little changes here and there. I always use a single screen. I don't use the split, just personal preference. Units tab, basics, distance, speed, depth, nautical miles, knots, feet, lat and long. You can show the true magnetic. Advanced, never use this one either. I just leave these set at the defaults, with the exception of this guy right here. Make sure this one is checked. This OpenGL. It makes the transition between charts much easier. Templates, once again, I don't use. Charts. These are the charts that you can download from NOAA directly. Nothing fancy. Go to NOAA's website and download them, and they'll come in a zip file for the area that you are in. You can get them up and down the East Coast. Good, it's good to know too. Um, I don't have to use these very often. Actually, I've never used them. I guess if you're like having an issue with the way the charts are filling in, you can kind of do a force it to rebuild the database, which I guess would work quite well. I don't change any of these. I leave all this at the default. You might want to change the shallow water if you know to something a foot or two above your depth, your keel depth. Chart groups I don't use because it all pulls right back in, and I only run one set, and that's usually Virginia and Maryland. This one comes default. The chart downloader, I don't add it. I just pull them in. I save them locally. This one's where you can connect it supposedly back into other types of hardware or software on your boat. This is my GPS puck, which of course I don't have plugged in, so it's not enabled. This is a lot more of the AIS stuff. Kind of gives you some ideas as to what you can set up. You can change the color of the track. Like I said, AIS I don't use, but here's the screen. Okay, MMSI, of course that's tied directly to your boat. This is obviously on my computer, so not on the nav on my boat. You can change the default waypoint icon from the diamond to any number of things based on where you're going and what you're doing. Okay, user interface. I don't make any changes here. I don't need to. These are the ones that are default. If you're using a tablet or something that actually has a touch screen, make sure you come into here and enable a touchscreen interface. It'll do it automatically if you're putting it on a tablet. But, you know, just check it to be sure. Plugins, there are tons and tons and tons of plugins for OpenCPN. Go look on their website, pull down whatever you think you might need, play with them, load it up, take stuff off. Of course, you see I have the grid and the dashboard. The dashboard's for deeper navigation that I honestly have used like 2 or 3 times, but it makes life a little easier. Help tab, basic stuff there. The route and mark manager, if you look at the quick menu is what I'm going to call it on the left hand side, you see the create route, you see the route and mark manager, the enable tracking, and change the color scheme, which I don't do. I leave it at default, make life nice and simple. That's print the chart, of course, and help. And I honestly have no idea what that is. Anyway, if you know what that is, please put a comment down in the description, or down in the comments below. Of course, you can do a quick drop for. Of course, the last icon is for man overboard markers. All right. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you'd like to see something more in depth or have questions, please by all means post it down in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer. Once again, thank you guys for taking these few minutes out of your day to spend with me and learn a little bit about OpenCPN. Please click that subscribe button and like the video, and don't forget to ring the bell. Alright guys, see y'all on the water. Have a wonderful afternoon.